What's up? It's Angela Yee from the Breakfast Club, and I am here with Cate Luzio, the founder of Luminary. How are you today, Cate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And this is something that I'm excited to talk to you about as a woman who is an entrepreneur and who I also need like that network of support from other women is so important. So I want to talk to you about what Luminary is.
Yeah, so we're still a baby. We're a little over 2 years. We're a career and personal growth platform for women, but we don't exclude men. And we work mainly with women across three professional journeys: women in the workforce, women in entrepreneurship, and women in transition. And we do that by working with individual women as well as companies who are really looking to invest in their pipeline. About 50%, Angela, of our members are small business owners, entrepreneurs, founders. More than 40% of our members are women of color. And it's unbelievable over this past year just to see, back to your original point, how much women are looking for this community and this networking and these resources to grow themselves.
So I have to ask you about your own personal journey because I know that you come from a background where you've excelled in a lot of different areas. You come from banking, and yet this was something that you quit your job to actually pursue and start. So can you tell me what your own experience has been that led you to be so passionate about helping other women?
Yes, I think much like you, in a sense, worked for many years in a male-dominated industry. I was a banker for a long time, almost 20 years, and I loved it. I love what I did. I actually did, like you said, I excelled and I accelerated very quickly. On the side of my desk, I was really focused on the diversity, equity, inclusion that was either existed or not existed in the banks that I worked in particularly in focusing on women. And in 2018. I said, listen, I have done really well. I can continue to do really well, but is there an opportunity to have a greater impact and not just focus on women in one specific bank or just in finance? And wrote a business plan, knew I'm not the person to do a side hustle. I'm either all in or all out. And 8 months later, physically launched Luminary. And 14 months later, a pandemic hits, and then we go global. So my background really lent itself to building businesses in the banking world and understanding how to run companies, even though I had a boss and had lots of infrastructure. But at the same time, it really showed a light on what women were missing, not just in the corporate world, but business owners and founders, in particular, women of color.
So talking about the pandemic, we know that a lot of small businesses, Black women in particular, right, are leading when it comes to starting these small businesses and being entrepreneurs, but the pandemic has disproportionately affected us. So can you talk about what are the resources that you have that would be really beneficial for women who are small business owners, in particular Black women?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers, 42% of all new owned businesses by women are started by Black women, right? More than 60% of new businesses that are started by women are women of color. And then we have got to do more to support those businesses, not only so they survive, particularly through the pandemic, and we're still in it, by the way, but that they succeed and they grow and they scale. Right? We don't just need businesses that employ 1 to 2 to 3 people. That's amazing, right? We need those as well, but we've got to be able to support resources, ongoing access. We think about access to capital. That's not just venture capital. Not everybody is ready for venture capital, nor will they ever be. I didn't raise money. I self-funded. But we need capital. We need banks to start lending to small businesses much greater than they have before, in particular, people of color and women of color and Black-owned businesses. With the numbers that they're putting up, they need this, right? They need access to networks. They need doors opened. They need ongoing education. And Luminary, since we've opened our physical and virtual doors, that is exactly what we do. We also really create an ecosystem for these business owners to support each other. And then last year, as I started to see more and more of our own members in our community and small businesses sort of saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm losing revenue. I'm losing clients. I said that we've got to do something better and we've got to do it fast so that all of these companies don't go out of business. And by the way, we've lost more than 30% of women-owned businesses have permanently shut down. And so we created our Yeah, go ahead.
I want to touch on a
Yeah,
couple of different things that you said. So
yeah,
when you talk about self-funding, right? Because when I
yeah.
started my press juice business, I did use my own money, but a lot of people were telling me, don't ever use your own money when you start a business, use other people's money. So I want to get your thoughts on that and if you would have done things differently and why you chose to self-fund. Because when I relaunched my business, we did actually get people to lend us money and went to individuals for that, and we're paying back that money with interest instead of giving a percentage of the company away. But it does feel like a relief to me to not be using my own money. That was difficult for me. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
I think it all depends on the kind of company. For me, especially to start the company. And listen, I worked in a long time in banking. I saved a lot of bonuses, so I had that privilege, and not everybody has that, right? I didn't want to go into debt running my business, and I didn't have to. I think my biggest thing was making sure that I didn't dilute myself and give anything, like to your point, away to others. I think what you did as far as tapping into your network to raise a little bit of money and utilizing that as more of a loan, absolutely 100% what a lot of small businesses should have access to. Some of that can come from friends and family, some of that can come from crowd funds, some of that should ultimately come from banks that can lend at a non-predatory rate. And I am using my voice to say, listen, there are all kinds of ways to fund a business, and not one is the only measure of success. So I think it really depends if you're manufacturing something, if it's a services related businesses, are you doing food? It also really, Angela, becomes, what are you comfortable with,
Right.
right? And so for me, as we went into the pandemic, if I had raised a bunch of money or had tapped into the investor community, I don't think we would have actually navigated as well as we did. We had no debt and we had liquidity. And that is really important, as you know, as a business owner, to be able to withstand, cyclical changes, seasonality, or things like a recession. And so I think this access to education and financial tools, so women in particular understand what's out there before they
Mm-hmm.
even get into it. That's so important. So you know what methods you can use and what are available before you make that one decision that could impact you negatively.
You also talked about the business plan that you put together and going all in. So, how important is a business plan when you're actually starting a business or even trying to raise money?
For me, it is the number one thing everyone should do if they're looking to start a business. Listen, I don't care if you're raising money, you're not raising money, you're doing a crowd fund, you're tapping into your own bank account. If you don't have a North Star, I don't understand how you can actually measure your success. You also need the ability to measure not only what's coming in financially, what's going out, and being able to pull different levers in your business model to be nimble enough to adapt, to pivot. And I think a lot of people, especially women and women-owned businesses, have seen that this year, that it has been such a struggle. I teach a business plan boot camp every month at Luminary, and 95% of those attendees every month don't have a business plan. And I
Wow.
think even if it's 5 pages, I don't care if it's not what I did. You just need something to have a focus. And so you can measure where you're at in your business. What happens if someone comes and says, hey, Angela, I want to buy your business, and you don't have all of those tools at your disposal? What if you say, I want to do something else? I want to add a new revenue stream. I want to add a partner. Having that North Star is really important.
I agree with you on that because that has helped us tremendously. And there's people who make a living just doing business plans for
Yes,
other
of
people. So
course.
it's definitely a skill to have. So that boot camp actually is a great idea. And I do encourage people to do a business plan as well as an operating agreement, right? When you
Yes.
have partners in your business. Can you talk about operating agreements and the importance of that?
Yeah, I think first thing you should do when you're starting a business is a business plan. Find a good lawyer, find a good accountant, and that accountant and that lawyer can work together, and you're going to set up whatever the structure of your business. If you're thinking of bringing on partners, if you have a co-founder, these operating agreements actually from a legal standpoint tell you what you can and cannot do. It's also part and parcel to that business plan. It really sets you up for success, and also back to those levers you can pull. What happens if you want to get that partner out of the business? What if it's not working? What if you want to bring on a partner? Those operating agreements are critical. And by the way, if you ever do go and try to get a loan from a bank, or you're setting up a business account, or you're getting a credit card for your business, you need all of those things. It is a much easier sell when you're dealing with a financial institution if you have all of that background from a document standpoint, to say, I'm ready for this. I've done my due diligence. I'm going to be a success, and I want you to help me be there.
So with all that being said, let's talk about some of the resources that Luminary provides, because it is membership based, right? So how do you get a membership, and then what do you get from that membership?
So it is membership based, but we say we're inclusive membership. So we do not have an application process, and we never have since the first day we started the company, for the sheer reason that women already have a ton of barriers to entry. Why should we create another barrier? A community, which we are, doesn't put up barriers. It actually breaks
So
them
no
down.
VIP. There's no VIP.
It's like,
Okay.
we're leveling the playing field, whether you're Cate Luzio, you're Angela, you're a banker from JP Morgan, you're somebody at Unilever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we actually bring women and men together, because we need men just equally as much pushing for us and working with us. And then once you join, which is literally, you go on the website at luminary-nyc.com and join now. You now have multiple levels of membership. You could be digital. So if you're sitting in Atlanta, you're sitting in LA, you're sitting in Houston, you can be part of the community and have access to all of the programming and content that we offer. If you're here in New York, you can actually access our physical space, which is in Nomad on 29th and Broadway. And we did that for a reason. We really wanted to create an inclusive and welcoming and diverse environment. And I think, we're 2.5 years into it. I think we've done a pretty good job. There's always more work to do. And that's also why we work with companies. We work with companies that are really thinking about investing in their communities as well as their employees. So working with companies like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and Unilever and Indeed, as they think about, it's no longer just about the profit component of the business. It's also about their own people. It's about the communities where they live, work, and serve. And we want to provide that access to everyone versus just one woman.
Coming from such a male-dominated field like you have, right? What do you think it does to a business when there's a lack of women and women in leadership positions? How does that affect a company?
Well, listen, we know the stats, right? We know when there's a more diverse group at the table, there are better business results. There's better performance. There's more opportunity. I mean, an article came out today about Black business owners and how much money is being left off the table. It was in Business Insider, about to the tune of $700 billion, because less than 2% of businesses are owned by Black people. Like, that's ridiculous. So we know these stats. Why aren't we doing more? And I left this very long male-dominated industry, which I happen to love and had great mentors and coaches and sponsors, because I was really just tired of reading these stats over and over and saying, if it's not me who can make a change, then who else? And we also know diversity of representation and thought really can actually, I would say, help customers, right? We're not talking about 50 years ago. We're talking about brands today that need to be held accountable. We've seen that over the past year, since the murder of George Floyd and many others. And now you're saying, I want to put my money behind the company that's actually doing the right thing. If I see a board or a management committee or the person that I deal with that's a woman or a person of color, I'm much more likely to do business with them. So the tables have turned, the tides are changing. And I think this is not going away. If we think this was a moment in time, bullshit, excuse my language. This is a movement. Our voices are loud. Your voice is loud. The voices around the world are saying we need a change.
That's right, because I'm very intentional about where I spend my money. And it's something I've always paid attention to, but even more so now that these companies that are trying to make these donations or have some type of token person in a position, we want to make sure that this is not just something you're doing for the moment, but this is something that we're really holding you accountable for if you want our dollars, because we spend so much money. And
Yeah,
so
and
we really drive the economy.
it's systemic, right? It's systemic, and we've got to create new policies. We've got to create new avenues of opportunity. We've got to create new roles. And you talk about companies that you want to support, and that's one of the reasons at the end of last year we started to work with Unilever as one example, and said, let's actually find a company that's willing to put their money where their mouth is. Unilever was the first one to work with us on a fellowship program. And they're supporting almost 300 women-owned businesses across 9 cities in the US with Luminary memberships and access to programming and everything that we do. And by the way, 81% of them are women of color. Like that.
That's great.
That's a game changer. If we can continue this ripple effect, companies giving back, actually not just making money, and that's important too, giving back to their communities and looking at ways to support small business. I mean, Main Street America, that's the backbone of America. We need that. And when you look at those stats, right, 42% of all new women-owned businesses started by Black women. I don't want that stat to go down. We want that stat
Me
to go
neither.
up, right?
And we just don't want the businesses to start. We want them to succeed and thrive.
Flourish,
So,
absolutely,
right.
And make money and create generational wealth, right? That this is what the U.S. started hundreds of years ago, right? And it was started by, and no offense to the white men, there's a lot of great white men, but this is what the world was. The world is changing. Look around. Look at the two of us on this, and I think all voices can actually have an impact. What you're doing on the show, what we're doing at Luminary, what Unilever's doing as a brand, as a true company with purpose. That's actually how we make an impact. And with 5.5 million women leaving the workforce this year because of the pandemic, we got a lot of work to do. And that doesn't even count the entrepreneurs that we are not supporting yet. And they need that support and help, because that's how you actually make it in this world. You get those doors opened, you push on, you get press, you get opportunities to sell your products. And so it can't just be, it can't just be two of us doing it. It's got to be all of us doing it. And that's how you create companies that flourish and succeed and create generational wealth for long times to come.
Well, I love it. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart too. So I love to see Unilever and Luminary teaming up. I've done a lot of stuff with Unilever too, and I've seen personally the grants that they've given to Black-owned businesses, to women-owned businesses. So I think it is a very organic collaboration. I like the fact that you left the corporate world where you were doing really well to start a company that's actually going to help women. And so where can people go to find out more information and to join Luminary and become a member?
So it doesn't matter where you live, because we are now global. We're actually now in 36 countries. We have members in 36 countries. Crazy silver linings of the pandemic. On the web, it's luminary-nyc.com. On social, it's @BeALuminary. And honestly, this is not just about us. This is about all organizations that are supporting women and people of color and underrepresented communities in general. So we are here for you. We'd love to support and help. And we have currently, actually, last thing, I'll do a little bit of a pitch. We have a pitch competition that we're currently accepting applications for women-owned businesses going on right now. You can find it also on our website. That'll be a live pitch competition and close to $100,000 in prizes. That will happen at the end of July. So we're trying our best, Angela, and we really appreciate the visibility and representation that you're giving us too.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I love the idea of a pitch competition, because that is so important, right? To practice that pitch and get it down pat. So I can't wait to see that.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cate Luzio from Luminary.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.